All right, welcome, folks. This is Ask the Expert. And amazing to me, we've been on every Wednesday since the first Wednesday in April 2020. We we knew that an online presence was important, and then of course COVID forced us into a much deeper and wider online strategy, and it's just been wonderful. I want all of you to know that you can share this video on your social platforms. This is not um, Marvel movies. You can share it. No one's going to sue you for doing it, and we need you to share it. We need you to share it with your friends and your family because we're entering a new season now. This is what you might call an inflection point. Some people call moments like these inflection points when something significant happens that causes a shift or an expansion or something else that impacts what you're doing. And so every Wednesday, we will continue to do this. And you know that experts for us are not people with PhDs who have read books about subjects. Experts for us are people who have done the work, people who have experience, and have read some books also. So today, we are so excited. I'm excited because I am desperately seeking talent that is behind the camera, talent that's in front of the camera. I'm seeking talent to really take over all of my work. I retired from my longest serving full-time job. My first full-time job, I worked about 2 weeks. I was working, I was working the midnight shift at Deluxe Check Printing Place, and I was doing that so I could be free to go to meetings in the daytime. So I slept at work and I slept at home. So that job lasted about 2 weeks. Then I had a summer job that didn't last all summer. And so I have not had a great track record with full-time jobs. But when I went to First Baptist in Somerset, I worked there for 30 years. And I think it's about 10 months and maybe 15 hours. Uh, and when I retired from that job, I got busier than I've ever been. So, prediction, I plan to retire, if the Lord lets me, from everything that I'm doing right now in December of 2025. And the reason I call this an inflection point is because I'm now closer than I've ever been before to one of those people that I'm expected to take over at least a big chunk of my work when I retire, if not sooner. So let me introduce to those of you who don't know her and present to those who do Nicole Pride, who I've known since she was young, very
Thank you.
young. She used
Just
to
leave
bring
it at
me
that.
her report card. She brought me her report card in church, and I would always make over her because she always got good grades, and she went on to college and got good grades, and she's just been a real star. And I'm interviewing her today for three reasons. Number one, because she's got a great personal story. Number two, she's an entrepreneur. She's got a marvelous business. And I'll save number three for last. It'll be a surprise. So, Nicole, welcome to
Thank
Ask the
you.
Expert.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to join the D Free movement in this capacity. This is great.
Yeah, this is not your first time participating in D free programming, though.
No, no. So when you first rolled it out at the church, I participated as just an attendee who wanted to improve their financial standing, right? And so I very much have been a recipient of all the tools and resources and great information to help me and my family. My husband Hassan has participated in D Free over the years as well, and so we've just been beneficiaries of this great movement. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And this is a kind of a broadcast platform. We understand that, but I try to treat this as a conversation that other people kind of listen in on. So folks, just in case you're wondering, this is unscripted, it's unrehearsed. We didn't get together to talk about this, but Nicole and I can converse freely because we've been talking for years. So I want to ask you this question before you talk more biographically. I've never asked this question before for any of the people in your group. How does it feel to have had me as your pastor and you were really a child, and then you grew up and became pretty much a peer of mine. Is that how is that? Because a lot of your friends don't know what to call me, which is, I think, kind of evidence of the confusion. So how does that feel?
First of all, I do not see myself as your peer, but okay. And you'll always be Reverend Stories to me. But I love the fact that I'm able to work with you in this capacity. So when I first graduated from, well, let's go backwards a bit.
All right.
So, if you recall, I'm sure you do, you had this initiative at the church, Vision 2000, wherever the church wanted to be by the year 2000. And as a young person, you put me on a committee with 40 adults to envision what the church would look like for youth. And in fact, my mentors were Joetta Clark and Roberta Coleman, who were just excellent women, who were very savvy, and they took me in and guided me, and it was just pretty awesome. In any case, we developed a proposal about what the church would look like to serve youth in the church, but also in the surrounding community. And so if you fast forward, after I graduated from college, I did have a difficult time finding employment. And you said, come on, work with me. You helped start this. And I joined you with the Community Development Corporation, which was an awesome experience. The best first job anyone could hope for. I had so many skills that I acquired working there. In fact, I remember when I went on to work at a PR agency, they wanted to hire me in a certain role. And I'm like, no, look at all of this that I've done. And they said, well, if you're as good as you say you are, in 3 months, we'll promote you in a new role. And in 3 months, they promoted me in a different role. And I attribute all of that to the experience that I had working at the Community Development Corporation.
Well, first of all, very few things make me feel as good as having been able to take young people like yourself who came up in the church, graduated, came back to the church, and then I was able to offer you employment. Malika Husbands and
Mhm.
Brianna Smallwood, and just the list goes on, and it continues today. Mike Penix's son, Brett, works with me. Excuse me. And it's just marvelous to see you young people grow up and become adults. And then to say you appreciate having worked for me, even though I was probably very tough on you, but I was tough on you trying to get you ready for the successes that you've had. So
Well, let me tell you, I was prepared. So if you can imagine working at a PR agency in New York City and you have big clients and demanding clients, they were nothing. I was ready.
all right, that's enough of that. That's but some of your peers didn't understand it, because I was a bit tough, but all of them understood it after they left. And when they got into their jobs, many of them in corporate jobs, some of them in education, many of them have thanked me almost to a person. Really, they've thanked me for the rigor because, I held you to high standards and I knew that you wouldn't be with me as a career, but I also knew what the world was like out there. And you have proven the point that preparation creates opportunity. So that's great. So you don't feel like my peer, but you are, in fact, my peer, and that's one of the reasons we're here today. Talk about your family a bit because I know you are such a committed wife and passionate mother. I want people to know that part of your life.
Sure, thank you. So I have a husband. His name is Hassan. We've been married. So thankfully we got married in 2000. So we don't have to think too hard about how long we were married. So we always changes with the year.
How did you meet Hassan?
At Rutgers, at Rutgers University, and we have two boys. One, my youngest Nicholas, who's entering high school, and my oldest Justin is going into his second year at Rutgers University.
That is wonderful, wonderful. Just a beautiful family. I saw Hassan somewhere recently when I gave a speech, and just so proud of him and his growth and development. So
Thank you. Mhm.
I was pleased to see that you've decided to stretch out into your own business. And I say please because, first of all, more jobs are created by small businesses in this country than large corporations. That's number one. Number two, very few people as talented and creative as you really, quote unquote, fit into a structure that's really built by someone else and that's really designed to promote someone else. And that's why entrepreneurship is critical. And thirdly, you really cannot create the kind of wealth working on a job. Now, it is true, you can create some wealth, but you can't create the kind of wealth that you can when you create your own business, build your own business, scale your own business, and then perhaps one day even sell your own business. So, what motivated you at this time in your life to do this business called Blossom with Pride? Of course, a play on your personality, that's blossoming, and your name, which is Pride. What motivated you for this season to do that?
Really, I feel being directed by God. That's first and foremost, and then also knowing that you have to start at some point, and the older you get, you lose the opportunity. And I really felt like a lot of things came together, and now is the time to move.
Yeah, one of the things, folks, that has always impressed me about Nicole is she's never made a major decision that I'm aware of without taking serious consideration to what God wants for her life. And I'm going to tell you something. Too many of us call on God when we have an emergency. God is kind of like a spare tire, but we're not really involving God in our complete process. And one of the things I respect about you, Nicole, so much is that you have always responded to everything I'm aware of with seeking God's will and making sure it's aligned with God's purpose. And it's just so admirable. And it gives you such comfort in knowing that whether you really win or lose, whether you rise or fall, you are pursuing God's will for your life. And that is just, it's so admirable and inspiring to me.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. You try the best that you can. And, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, if I did get it wrong, I trust God to redirect me. Right. So
Right.
go
That's
for it.
exactly right.
Mhm.
So, by the way, you mentioned two women. I want everyone to know who they are. You mentioned Roberta Coleman. Roberta Coleman was the facilitator of our first strategic planning process. Nicole described it. It was called Vision 2000. Nicole was a strategic planning executive at AT&T, and T, and she and her, did I say Nicole? Roberta. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Roberta. And when AT&T went back in to do business in South Africa after Mr. Mandela was freed, she and her husband were actually sent by AT&T to be the executives to relaunch AT&T's business throughout South Africa.
Mhm.
I mean, very influential couple, very, very intelligent. And
Mhm.
I miss her so much.
Mhm.
She's had challenges over the years, but she helped us craft our strategic plan, and she did so voluntarily. And then you mentioned Joetta Clark. Joetta Clark is an Olympic champion. She's the daughter of the infamous Joe Clark, who was the principal who was featured in the movie Lean on Me because of the baseball bat and the bullhorn that they had at Patterson Eastside High School. Member First Baptist. And I didn't know that you and she had developed a relationship, or if I did, I didn't remember. But she's still pressing on, still motivating young people, still
Mhm.
doing speaking engagements. And that's the beautiful thing about the Black church. Although the post civil rights era has allowed us to move into neighborhoods that we aren't as close as we used to be, the Black church still can function as a community if we're intentional about connecting people with people, particularly younger people with older people. So
Mhm.
let's talk about the business. What is Blossom with Pride?
So Blossom with Pride is one of my brands under my corporation, which is Blossom Business Group. And Blossom with Pride is a brand that I started to help empty nester moms reclaim their identity. And, so often moms have given, at least at a minimum 2 decades of their lives raising their child or children. And a lot of women along the way lose themselves. And so when they get to the point where they're saying goodbye to their children on a college campus and have to start life in a different way, in a different capacity, they harbor a lot of discontentment and they feel lost and stuck. And, I have a heart for women and want to help them through that process.
Yeah, it's very interesting because women and men, but mostly women, particularly in our community where women are raising many of our children alone, they are so focused on providing for their children. They are so needed by their children. I can imagine that after 20, 25 years of that kind of living where every morning, every afternoon, every evening's been focused on your child, there's a void. There's a void there. And I think it even gets deeper than that because recently a pastor named Tim Keller died. And Keller wrote a very important book when he talked about oh God, it had to do with idols. And in
Mm.
one chapter of the book, he talked about how you can actually make members of your family your idol, meaning that your husband, your wife, your children, your parents can become more important to you than God, in fact. And so when I heard about your business and your vision and heard about your ministry to and support for empty nester mothers, I thought about the fact that this is a deeply spiritual moment in women's lives. And what I'd like to know from you is what kinds of things will you be doing to help them address their reality and their potential?
Yeah, so the main thing is a course that I have created called Moving Forward. It's a 7 module course, and we take through the process of first getting to rediscover who they are. So in the first module, we focus on just their thinking, right? I heard it put really well in one interview online, and someone said that too often we have an "it will do" perspective on life, and you kind of settle, and life is just passing you by day after day, month after month, and you don't think that there's more that can be done. And so we just focus on just the thinking. You are alive, God has a purpose for you, and you don't have to settle. After that, we focus on purpose in module 2. And bottom line, everyone's basic purpose is to help others. That's just my thinking and philosophy, but it looks very different for each person. And so we go through this process of finding out what your purpose is. And we're talking about your God given purpose. And if you really focus on it, the Holy Spirit is speaking very loudly, sometimes in neon flashing lights, but we don't take the time to really listen. And so we go through exercises to really just get in tune again with the Holy Spirit so that you can hear. Module 3, we talk about a vision for your life. And this is not just saying, oh, I want a big house or I want this or that. It's finding out what God's vision is and within the parameters of that, and then dreaming within the guidance of the Holy Spirit. We do goals, we do strategy, and then we come up with some type of action that can be taken to cement it all to get people started. So, one of the things that Reverend Stories mentioned that I thought was worth addressing is what did you say? The fact that it's very spiritual and you're talking about
Yeah.
idols. Well, one thing that, I constantly question and evaluate is if I'm putting any misplaced priorities on things, people, practices. So I think that's really key. And then this whole point about women and shifting, and if this is like this is a spiritual journey for them, and that's the whole premise of this. So your purpose is obviously coming from God. And we have to connect with the Lord to figure out what it is that He wants us to pursue. And that's where your deep fulfillment will come from, not just looking at someone else, idolizing someone else on social media and wanting to mimic their lifestyle.
Yeah, we live in the age of distractions, and if we're not careful, we can know much more about everything else and everyone else than we do about ourselves. And so it's that's why I call it deeply spiritual. It's very important because as seasons change, opportunities change, capabilities change, interest changes, even within the context of a single purpose. I mean, I decided at 16 years old that my life's purpose was to help people. I'm not an actor, I wouldn't be an athlete, you know, that all of my efforts, whether they're entrepreneurship, ministry, government, all of my roles, I would be there for the purpose of helping people. Now the how would change, but the what never changed.
Right.
And to
Mhm.
have someone like you being able to address that and do it in a systematic way. That's the other thing I admire about you. You're a systematic person. You don't do things impromptu, as I'm sure you can, and I'm sure you have, but you're a thorough planner, thinker, systematic person. And I think it's just very exciting to see where God is going to use you to help women, especially who can embrace your principles and apply them as their own practices. So talk a little bit about that course. I mean, how do people access the course? Does it have a beginning date? I mean, where is the course to talk about it?
Right. So I offer the course on the platform Teachable. And on October 2nd is our next course launch. So I did a pilot back in, I guess, 2022, in the beginning of the year. And that was live. I taught the course live. And then I offered it as a self paced experience for anyone to take. So this go around, we'll all take it at the same time. People will sign up, go through the lesson, go through the exercises, and then I'm offering a weekly live video call where I answer questions, emphasize certain points, encourage people. So that begins October 2nd.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I did a course on Teachable. I think my first online course, well, my second online course was on Teachable. And I found that people found it to be very user friendly. It was easy to manage, and the user experience was superior to some of the other platforms that we had considered. So, Mrs. Pride, Miss Nicole, Miss
Mhm.
Blossom with Pride, um, my major interest today, and we talked about you as a mom and an entrepreneur, but this Ask the Expert series is something that I'm really, really committed to. I'm committed to it because we often, because we're distracted by social media and other forms of entertainment, we often hear from people who just don't know what they're talking about, first of all. And of course, D Free is a financial freedom movement, but finance involves the intellect, it involves emotions, it involves relationships, it involves faith. And there are people all over this country who are not famous, but they're great people. And
Mhm.
what we'd like to do is to bring them to this platform. And what I'd like to do is to have someone else be the face for D Free on the platform so that I can work with the team on making sure more people see it, more people access it, and more people are helped by it. So I want to thank you publicly and announce for the first time that you've agreed to be our new host for Ask the Expert every Wednesday. Now I plan to join you as often as either I can or as often as you tell me to. But but as you know, this is very important to us. It's one of our major initiatives. And we have people from all over the country who are with us every single week. And we have relationships with organizations like the Deltas and the Zetas and the National Baptists who have representatives that will be distributing the content in their various formats on their various platforms to their constituency. And so I just want to thank you publicly and ask you why you said yes. Now I know God gave you permission, otherwise you would have said yes. But
Okay.
besides God giving you permission, what's your interest in the D Free Ask the Expert series?
It's multifold. One, genuinely, I love people and I love people's stories and I love to dig deeper to find out what makes them tick and what nuggets we all can pull out of their own experiences. And I love the format where anyone can just learn from the expert who's on, right? And figure out what they can take away from their stories and how they can apply it to their everyday lives and help them move forward with their goals. So I like the format that it's casual but still informative. And I think we can just have a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's what makes it slightly different from, say, broadcast television because it's informal. Broadcast television is a bit more stressful, I think, because the way you look and the way you talk and FCC regulation, you get all of those things. But we've tried to keep this to have a kind of spirit of just conversation. And again, people listening in on conversation and having a chance to ask questions directly of us or our guests live. Um,
Mhm.
and then, of course, people can watch it on demand later on YouTube or some other social media platform. Um, now, what we didn't talk about was your unique qualifications. You mentioned being at a PR firm in New York, but I don't think we talked a lot about what your skill set is. I mean, you are a communications expert. So talk about that. I know you don't like talking about yourself, but talk about yourself.
Okay. Well, like I said, it all started with working with you. When I first started at the Community Development Corporation, initially I was put in a role where I was doing some social service work, but I went on to the Harvest of Hope foster care program as their
Mhm.
communications manager. And at the time, the program was so early that it didn't have a visual identity yet. So I worked with a designer to develop the logo. We developed the look and feel. Back then, I had worked with Mike Penix to do the videos, and we did video news releases. We did some media outreach and got coverage, and I identified speaking opportunities for the director at the time, where she spoke at a national conference, I think the Child Welfare League of America.
Mhm.
So I had got a strong foundation there. Then you promoted me to communications man. Oh, I forget the titles at this point, but anyway, you promoted me in a communications role where at that time I was the lead communications person for the entire CDC. And there were so many spinoff corporations at the time. We had a readiness and training program,
Right.
a housing program. I
Right.
mean, that the experience there was just awesome. And so I was able to get a firm foundation. And then it was bittersweet. I did leave the CDC and eventually I went to the PR agency in New York where I really built a strong background in media relations. So I had clients that range from Minute Maid, Lipton Tea, I forget some of the others, but there were technology companies, there were household brands, and I led a lot of the accounts. And really, we were focused on media relations. And there, I booked major um, morning show networks and national papers, you name it. And so after I left the PR agency, I went on to Rutgers University in their media relations department, and that continued to, working with the national media outlets. And then I shifted a bit. I continued in higher ed for a couple of corporations, institutions, a medical school, Princeton Theological Seminary, but it was all in the communications function. At Princeton Theological Seminary, I ran the communications and marketing department there. And, we did everything. It was working with their web development, working with social media, working with, again, media relations. But there I was charged with rebuilding the team. And I most recently was with the church as communications director and leading the communication strategy for the church. And here I am today.
Right. So I'm saying welcome home since I got you started and now you'll help me finish.
A full circle.
But let's full disclosure. When Nicole left us, she needed to make more money. I've never paid any of these kids much money. So I've always made a deal with them. Work very hard with me. I'll help you develop your skills, but if you want to make some money, you got to go someplace else. So Nicole left, and I'm so proud of everything you've done, Nicole.
Thank
So
you.
so not only will you be the face of Ask the Expert, but I'm also expecting you to bring all of your communication skills, all of your creativity, all of your vision, and add to this foundation that we've created and help lead the team towards more effective strategies, more outreach, better look, whatever you perceive is needed and is possible. We want you to bring that to this experience because the people who are blessed by this will be a blessing to others because blessed people bless people.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
So
mhm.
listen, folks, if there's a question that you have for Nicole, where can people reach you?
They can reach me at my email is Nicole at blossombusiness.com. And then you can also reach me on my social media channels, which I believe are scrolling at the bottom of the screen now. Blossom with Pride on IG and Facebook.
Good. And folks, sign up. October 2nd is the next cohort, correct?
Yes. And so if you go to the website, blossomwithpride.com, you can get all the information there.
All right. All right, folks, listen, you've seen our newest expert and our new host for Ask the Expert, Nicole Pride. I'm proud in a godly way of Nicole Pride, and you will be blessed by her presence and by her personality, by her charisma, by her intellect, and most importantly by her spirit. I want to thank again all of you who participated in our D3 2023 Leadership Conference. And if you missed it, you can go to YouTube and just type in the search D Free Leadership Conference and you'll go right to it. You can see panels and speakers and others. I want all of you to pray for the Oliver family in New Jersey. We lost our highest uh, ever Black elected official, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. She was 71 years old. She's the second Black woman in history to be the Speaker of a state legislature. She's the first Black woman in New Jersey to be Lieutenant Governor. She's a longtime friend and leader and advocate for our community. And I will be speaking at her funeral on this Saturday. So pray
Mhm.
for the Oliver family. And then FinFest is coming up. This year, FinFest will be live. We'll have one in Newark, we'll have one in Detroit, and we'll have one in Atlanta. And this year, the focus of FinFest is going to be on family finances. And so
Mhm.
we're asking children to bring their parents with them. And we've got youth speakers. We've got a young man who does financial education. He's got his own financial literacy bus. We've
Mhm.
got a young woman who has her own products and they're in retail stores across the country. So we got young people coming to speak to their peers. And then we have financial professionals talking to parents about finances for their families and for their kids. It's going to be great. In Newark, we'll be at Phillips Academy. In Detroit, we'll be at Wayne State College. And in Georgia, we'll be at Georgia State College. And so go to dfree.com if you want more information about FinFest. And we look forward, if you live in those cities, to you participating. And we're not going to do a hybrid because we want people to show up in person. We want these young people to be touched and felt and supported. And we're looking forward to that before as soon as September hits here. I'm going to Martha's Vineyard next week to participate in all the Black stuff that goes on in Martha's Vineyard. We're going to be talking about Black money and Black business and D Free. So listen, stay in touch. dfree.com. You can go to the website, sign up for our newsletter, stay in touch, and wish Nicole Pride well, because she'll be back with you next week, same time, same place. Ask the Expert. So God bless you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.